Now, millions of people have taken to the streets over the past week in Hong Kong, showing enormous courage. This is a real protest that involves serious risks, true commitment, and it's dealing with a clear and present threat from Beijing. These people, young and old, men and women, people of all political dispositions and walks of life, are defending their freedom, their way of life and their human rights. Good on them, and I hope they get robust support from around the world, because while they appear to have won for now, the pressure from Beijing will not relent. Contrast that to the desultory scenes in Brisbane this morning, where a few Fruit Loops gathered to superglue their hands to the road. That's right, they stuck their hands to the road in an unbelievably silly protest against the Adani coal mine. Why is it these Green Left protesters never let things like facts, the rule of law and democracy get in their way? The Adani miners jumped all the legal hurdles, all the bureaucratic hurdles, all the environmental processes, and in the end it's been endorsed through, of course, the free democratic voting of the people around the country, especially in Queensland. They still want to stop this mine, depriving Australians of jobs and royalties and depriving Indians of cheap and reliable power, not to mention the economic prosperity that comes from that. But the virtue signalling protesters don't see it that way, of course. They seem to think they are on a mission from Gaia.
I am here with Extinction Rebellion, and we are here because we are concerned about the ecological crisis which threatens human civilization as we know it. There was a report that came out from Melbourne last week that was endorsed by Admiral Chris Barry, the former Chief of the Defence Force, and there is a very likely scenario that human society as we know it will collapse by 2050. So we are literally rebelling against the extinction of our species.
Now, as you know, this alarmist stuff is pretty nutty. The trouble is that it's running largely unchecked in our schools, universities and often in the media. When you consider the scientific facts, the history of life on the planet, the actual climate readings of the past century and the propensity for human beings to take action if necessary, by switching to nuclear power, for instance, then this sort of existential fear-mongering is beyond absurd. Perhaps instead of supergluing their hands to the road, they could squeeze some of the glue onto their lips. Actually, there's some good news for the global environment around the place today, with NASA releasing a new study showing increasing greening of the planet. The satellite imaging study shows that India and China in particular have seen a rise in vegetation. And while NASA gives most of the credit to better land management practices, it also recognises the reality that anyone who owns a greenhouse understands, and that is that additional carbon dioxide also encourages plant growth.